Welcome to Loop Lab. I'm Carlos, your guide to the world of Blender. Today's tutorial breaks down a powerful technique that beginners and pros can follow. So let's jump right in.
What's up everyone? Today we're going to create this awesome particle system loop. We'll be working with some cool neon style colors. As always, we're starting with a clean slate. Let's begin by adding a plane, centering it and scaling it up to 8 meters in length. Of course, it's entirely up to you how you scale yours. I'm going to add a mirror modifier so I have it on both sides. Now, to actually fill this with particles, we first need a source object. For the particles, I'm just going to use this object here and scale it way down. We don't need high quality here, so keep the poly count low to save on performance. Now, let's talk materials and colors. We're going to swap out the principal BSDF for an emission shader. Pick a nice, vibrant, glowing color. I'll start with white for now. I'm trying to stick to just 3 colors this time to keep things from looking too cluttered. I'll add more colors later, but for now, let's just stick with 1, 2, and 3. Alright, time to set up the particle system. I'll start with 5,000 particles. As I mentioned, to get a seamless loop, we need to start at minus half of our total frames. So in this case, from minus 150 to plus 150. That's our first particle system. Later, we'll duplicate this and set the range from plus 150 to 450. Let's set the particle count to 1500. In the Render tab, select Collection. But first, I actually need to move my particle objects into their own collection. Now select that particle collection and dial in the settings you want. Again, feel free to tweak these values to your liking. Here's how it's looking so far. Pretty cool already. As you might have noticed, I adjusted the wind and gravity settings a bit so the particles fly straight toward the camera. Now I'm duplicating the particle system. Make sure you make them independent so they don't share the same settings. On this one, I'll set the range from 150 to 450 and the lifetime to 900. Now let's duplicate the whole setup to the opposite side. Alright, that's looking pretty sweet. Now we're going to animate the camera across a 16-meter distance to get some movement going. The camera needs to be moving towards something after all. Let's group these two into a collection. To keep our GPU from exploding later, we're going to use this method for the repetitions. Let's repeat this a few more times. And there we go. That's the look. I'm gonna tweak the gravity values just a little bit more. I'll add these copies to a collection too. It just keeps the workspace cleaner. Let's crank up the light intensity a bit. Something's still not quite right. I don't want them crossing paths in the middle. I want them to fade out before they reach that point. I'm copying one more particle system now to use as a ceiling at the top. I'm going to tweak the top one though. Fewer particles and different colors. Make sure you separate the materials, otherwise you'll end up changing the colors for everything. To use different colors for the top system, I had to duplicate the particle collection and assign it specifically to that top system. I'll lower the particle count even more so it's not too overwhelming. Now I'm gonna play with the camera's focal length a bit. I'm just testing some settings here. I always recommend you experiment and see what works for you. Actually, I'm going to add more particles after all. This is the final look I'm going for. Now, let's add a shell or a casing. Okay, we're going to build a square tunnel right here. Delete the start and end faces. And let's add some loop cuts. This is the general idea, but I want to change the look. I want the individual segments to be separated. To do that, go into edit mode, select everything, and under the mesh menu, go to split and then by faces. Now let's add a smooth modifier. Check it out. That's the effect. With everything selected, add a wireframe modifier. Now we have these cool individual frames. Let's add a color animation to the frames so we get some color shifting in the clip. I'm really liking this. It's got a great retro style vibe. just adjusting the particles a bit more. Okay, we can leave it like this. Just a few more minor tweaks. Let's add that color animation to the grid. We'll use a wave texture for this. It's a great way to animate colors. For the bottom value, let's start at 0 and set the end to 12.256. That's usually a sweet spot for a seamless animation. Now let's set the colors and dial everything in. Again, this is all personal preference, and that's looking really good. We're nearing the end, so let's do a final check for any errors. Set the resolution to 150% and choose where you want to save the rendered video. If your GPU isn't the strongest, I highly recommend saving as a PNG sequence. That way, if your PC crashes, you can pick up right where you left off. And that's it. I hope this was helpful for you. Have fun making your own version, and like I said, don't be afraid to experiment. Now you've got the tools to create this and so much more. Have fun with it, and I'll see you in the next video.